What's going on, Dolph fans? It is your boy Dylan, and I am making this video. This is my post-game analysis for the New England Patriots versus Miami Dolphins. It was obviously at Gillette Stadium. There's definitely a lot to talk about, a lot to get into. I made a video a little while ago detailing the arrest of Xavier Howard, which is massively unfortunate. But I'm going to give you a couple more details on that in this video as well. But I will talk about that as we go. So first off, let's go ahead and get into this game though. So the first thing I want to say is that this is going to be the second time that I give the coaching staff a ton of credit. Positive credit. I still have some criticisms. I am a fair and objective person, and I have some criticisms, and I'm going to mention those, but there is definitely going to be a lot more love for the coaching staff in this one. And at the end of the day, no matter what the big picture is or my overall viewpoints, you can't take this away. This was, obviously it was a win. It was a win in Gillette Stadium, which we haven't done since 2008, the Wildcat season. And so, look, like I said, you can't take that away, just like you can't take away, the Miami Miracle from last year, right? So it is what it is. It was beautiful, it was wonderful, and definitely unexpected, right? And so, of course, I was wrong, right? And I expected that we were going to go into this and we could even get ourselves blown out, right? Because I didn't think that the Patriots were going to sit their starters because they had the number 2 seed to play for, right? So I was confident they were going to play their starters. It was a home game for them, and I really felt like, there was a substantial chance of us just getting destroyed. I thought it was near inconceivable that we even win the game at all. But hey, they surprised me, they shocked me, and they proved me wrong. And it turned out, it was a stressful game throughout, I must say, but it ended up turning out wonderful since we got the victory. So, like I said, ton of credit, and I'm happy to give it to them because they earned it and they deserved it today. So let's get into this. So real quick, let's start with the injury report. So defensive back Jamal Wiltz will miss the Dolphins season finale against the New England Patriots on Sunday. Wiltz was ruled out when the Dolphins released their final injury report of the week Friday. Wiltz sustained a shoulder injury in the victory against the Cincinnati Bengals. 5 Dolphins players were listed as questionable. Linebacker Vince Beagle with an elbow, defensive end Taco Charlton with an ankle, wide receiver Allen Hurns with an ankle neck, defensive tackle Zach Seiler with an ankle thumb, and defensive tackle Christian Wilkins with an ankle. All 5 were listed as limited participants throughout the week. The other 8 players on the Dolphins injury report this week did not get game status designations and will be available. Linebacker Jerome Baker, fullback Chandler Cox, quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick, wide receiver Isaiah Ford, center Daniel Kilgore, cornerback Nick Needham, tight end Durham Smythe, and linebacker Andrew Van Ginkel. New England's final injury report did not list any players as out or doubtful, but did have 8 players listed as questionable. Linebacker Juwan Bentley with a knee, defensive back Terrence Brooks with a groin, linebacker Shalik Calhoun, illness, tackle Marcus Cannon, ankle, linebacker Jamie Collins, shoulder, wide receiver Julian Edelman with knee and a shoulder, cornerback Jonathan Jones with a groin, and cornerback Jason McCourty. Calhoun did not practice either Thursday or Friday, while the other 7 were limited Friday. Brooks was in addition to the injury report on Friday. So that's what it looked like going into this game. We did have some one injury. I'll get to that in a bit. And so look, going into this game, once we found out the inactives, I personally was a little confused with the inactives, right? So let's talk about those real quick. Jamal Wiltz and Clive Walford were inactive. Cornerback Jamal Wiltz and tight end Clive Walford. Those we expected ahead of time. Jamal Wiltz, obviously, his shoulder injury was enough to keep him out. He was ruled out even prior, to, right, earlier on in the week. And Clive Walford apparently had a family issue, some sort of illness or something in his family that he had to attend to, and so he was held out. Those are expected. right? And then you also have Keaton Sutherland, center guard Keaton Sutherland, tackle Jamarcus Webb, all right, whatever. But then Allen Hurns, Vince Biegel, and Taco Charlton were all on the inactives. Now, they all did have injuries. They all were listed on the injury report and had things that they were dealing with. That is true, right? And so, okay, you could say, well, they were just trying to, make sure that they didn't get further hurt. It's the last game of the season, et cetera, et cetera. I understand that. But, and I also understand that you really don't actually have anything to play for other than a win, since you're saying you're trying to win every game. And also, technically, I suppose if you lose, you would get potentially some draft positioning. So, so the win, really, that's all you got, right, is the win. And certainly it would be a statement win if you could get it, which they obviously did. And so it didn't matter, but I just felt like since, these guys were questionable, and they're three, key guys, Vince Biegel, Allen Hurns, and Taco Charlton. But it also does say, Taco Charlton, for example, it does say what they think about him. He is the leading the leading player with in sacks for the Dolphins. But as I have said for a while, half of those were cleanup sacks, et cetera, et cetera. So it shows a little bit about what they think about him. Vince Biegel, Allen Hurns, probably that it is just to make sure that they don't get hurt, et cetera, or whatever. And that probably has something to do with Taco Charlton. But still, they were limited in practice. They were only questionable. You could have played them. There are certainly other players like Samaje Perine who just got, signed a few days ago that you could have had inactive, right? So I've had an issue with that all season. It didn't end up mattering in this game, but it is one thing I wanted to point out and just mention real quick, because it was a, consistent thing throughout the entire season. Anyway, but let's actually get into this game though, because the game turned out, like I said, it was definitely stressful throughout, but it obviously ended up being wonderful and certainly a very memorable game. Considering, literally the last time that we beat New England in Gillette Stadium was 2008. It was during the Wildcat season when we shocked them with the Wildcat offense, and they just didn't have any answer for it. And so, it is pretty huge. Now, there is some other context that goes into that I am going to talk about on along the way, that I think played into it, and certainly, gave us, an opportunity, some things, on the Patriots side of it, but, it is what it is. So the game ended 27-24 with a Dolphins victory that put us 5-11 on the season. That made dropped the Patriots to 12-4 on the season. Obviously still a wonderful record. They won the AFC East, so they are, another, I think it's 9 straight years now or some shit as, AFC East champions, whatever. And they are obviously going to the playoffs, but it was also huge in that with this win and the KC victory on Sunday, this dropped the Patriots into the number 3 seed. So they don't get a first round bye, and they're going to have to play the Titans, who won and are now going to the playoffs. And I'm going to get to that in a little bit because that's going to be really interesting. And I'm definitely watching that game. So anyway, we had 389 total yards to their 352. We had 326 passing yards to their 217, which is pretty astounding. But I'll get into that again, right? Full context, it does matter. It does matter. We only had 63 rushing yards though, so pretty on par with our terrible rush offense. They did end up having 135, which didn't improve upon our overall average for the season. And giving up 135 is never really good, but it obviously didn't end up mattering at the end of the day. We had 5.7 yards per play, not bad. They had 6.2, whatever. We did win the turnover battle though, because they did have a fumble and an interception, so that obviously helped as well. We were 41% on third down. They were 33. So as you can see, a lot of this did favor us. Passing yards, turnover battle, third down percentage, time of possession, and penalties. right? We had the ball for 33-51. They had it for 26 minutes and 9 seconds. We had only 4 penalties to their 6. So that's part of the context, right? And part of that is the Dolphins players played well. For the most part, the play calling was good. And the Patriots, part of that context though also is the Patriots pretty much played like garbage. But I'll get into that more in my full analysis in a bit. So Ryan Fitzpatrick was 28 for 41, 68.3% completion percentage, 320 yards, 1 touchdown, and a 99.6 passer rating. Albert Wilson threw 2 passes, connected on 1, so 50% for 20 yards. Just threw that in there because there were a couple trick plays. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Tom Brady was 16 for 29, 55.2% completion percentage. So Tom Brady was super inaccurate all day. And that definitely plays into it. And we weren't getting tremendous pressure either. He was high on a lot of his passes. Anyway, for 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then the interception, which was a terrible pass by him. We'll get into more of that in a minute. 88.4 passer rating. Patrick Laird led the way for us in rushing. He had 11 rushes, 21 yards. It's only a 1.9 average. He wasn't super effective on the ground today, but that, goes mostly on, and as it has the entire year with all our running backs, our offensive line is fucking garbage. Although they did play admirably today. I will say that, to give them credit for sure. Even though obviously not in the run game, because we only had 63 yards altogether, and nobody had over a 3.2 average. Samaje Perine did have 5 rushes for 16 yards and a 3.2 average, so he was somewhat effective in the run game and his limited carries, but still, nothing spectacular. But Patrick Laird did contribute pretty substantially to the pass game, which we'll get to in a second. Ryan Fitzpatrick also had 5 rushes, 15 yards, and a touchdown. He did scramble for a touchdown, but so once again, 5 rushes, 15 yards, a 3 average obviously, and a score because he had to run for his life a little bit. Not as much though today, and again, some credit to the offensive line for playing a pretty good game there. But also the Patriots defense did play like garbage too. The vaunted Patriots defense. I mean, they're going into this game, they're first in points allowed, first in overall yards allowed, second in pass yards allowed, and 7th in rush yards allowed. Now, they're good there in rush yards, but they probably took a hit in all the rest of those categories because they just played like hot garbage. And Isaiah Ford had 1 rush for 11 yards. Sony Michel led the way for them, 18 rushes, 74 yards, a touchdown, and 4.1 average. Rex Burkhead, 6 rushes, 48 yards, and an 8 average. Receiving, Devontae Parker led the way for us, 8 catches on 11 targets, 137 yards. And he's one of the bright spots, definitely for the game and, of course, for the season. I'll talk about that in just a little bit as well. Albert Wilson, 5 of 8 for 59 yards. He did have some drops, though. And, the Dolphins, I'm pretty sure I don't imagine people had more drops than us after this game, but we, lead the league in drops this year. And so that's definitely obviously been problematic and contributed to the overall madness of the season. In fact, he was 5 of 8 for 59. The 3 that he didn't catch today were probably on him. 2 of them for sure. But I would say probably all 3. Although 2 of them were a little bit low, he still could have caught it. One of them just hit him dead in the hands in stride and he just dropped it. But yeah, I saw reports that he wants to be back or whatever, so we'll see how that goes. I think he technically is on contract for another year. I don't recall, honestly. It's been a whirlwind of things. So, but I'll check on that, and we'll obviously monitor that as we go. Isaiah Ford was 7 of 9 for 54 yards. Patrick Laird 4 of 5 for 48. Mike Gesicki 4 of 7, 34 yards, and what ended up being the game-winning touchdown, which was fucking awesome. Philip Dorsett, and I am really glad though that he is getting to have, a prominent role in this offense. And again though, that's not any fault of Adam Gase's. They did use him a little bit, but he did need to get better at his blocking, and especially considering the fact that we had the injuries that we did, particularly on the offensive line, he was needed to block because we just didn't have enough protection up front. And ultimately, that got Ryan Tannehill injured, and as well at some point throughout the season. It was just a big old mess. Anyway, but I am glad to see that he is better at his blocking now, and it is getting reps and opportunities in the pass game. Now again, full context there, we have had no run game, so that's part of it. I mean, last game Fitzpatrick threw, I think, 52 passes. This game it was 40 something, right? We've obviously had to be pass heavy because of that. And the only two targets really that there have been him and Parker. Certainly the two best targets. But either way, definitely happy because I knew that he was going to be able to produce on this level. He just needed to get better at his blocking and settle in. It's only his second year. Settle into the NFL, calm down. It's hard for a rookie tight end to really make an impact like that. That's another factor from last year, right? So I knew he was going to get it, but I am happy to see that he is getting it. And of course, this coaching staff does get some credit for continuing his development, but it is also important as objective whatever for me, creator, content creator, reporter, I don't know what you want. I don't know that I consider myself a journalist or anything like that, but you get my point, right? And certainly as fans we have to be objective, and Adam Gase's first of all, they get credit for the pick. They were the ones that picked him, and two, they were the ones that developed him to the point where he was, a respectable blocker at least, so that way he could get more reps in the passing game, right? And touches in that way. Just like they get a ton of credit for getting Devontae Parker to the point where he finally developed the, eating habits and the sleeping habits and the practice habits, etc., 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 so he could finally be healthy to have this breakout season. Finally, right, in year 5. Anyway, Philip Dorsett led the way for them. One out of 4 for 50 yards. Landon Roberts, 1 of 1, 38 yards and a touchdown. I mean, that's kind of embarrassing because he's a linebacker. Mohamed Sanu, 3 of 5 for 35 yards. James White, 3 of 3 for 33 yards, 1 touchdown. N'Keal Harry, 3 of 7, 29 yards. Julian Edelman, 3 of 7 for 26 yards. And real quick on the Landon Roberts thing, it's embarrassing. He got a 38-yard reception for a touchdown on us, and he's a linebacker. And there's going to be an example of a play that the Dolphins did early on in the game that I definitely disagreed with. That shows why, further context to show why that's an embarrassing play. But anyway, fumbles. Ryan Fitzpatrick and Trevor Davis both had a fumble, but they didn't lose it. The Ryan Fitzpatrick one, it was actually an early snap. Fitzpatrick wasn't actually ready for it yet. He didn't call for the snap, and it was snapped. But he did land on it. And Trevor Davis, it was on a punt return, I think. But one of the other Dolphins happened to be there. So we were good there. We didn't lose it. Julian Edelman, James White, and Joe Thuney all had fumbles. James White did lose his, so that's where we got our fumble. Andrew Van Ginkel actually led the way for the defense with 7 solo tackles and 2 tackles for loss. So definitely, he's shown a little bit more consistency there, so that's good. Because overall their first draft is very much underwhelming. And so that's good that he's, showing a little bit of something here at the end of the season to say that maybe, you know, he can be, you know, a positive contributor to this team going forward. Jerome Baker with 6 solo, 3 assisted tackles, and a forced fumble. Trent Harris, 5 solo, 1 assisted, a sack, and a tackle for loss. Eric Rowe, 4 solo tackles, 1 assisted, 1 interception for 35 yards, a touchdown, and a pass defense. Adrian Colbert, 4 solo tackles. Nick Needham, 3 solo, 2 assisted. Devon Godshaw, 3 solo, 1 assisted, 2 tackles for loss. Nate Brooks, 3 solo tackles and a pass defense. Montre Hardage, 2 solo tackles with a pass defense. Tay Hayes, 1 solo, 3 assisted tackles and a pass defense. Stephon Gilmore led the way for them, 7 solo tackles, 1 assisted, and a pass defense. And let's say overall, Devontae Parker definitely won the battle against Stephon Gilmore. So that is definitely another positive mark on this year for him. You know, not only did he show that he's had, you know, especially towards the end of the season now, granted, some of the teams weren't very good teams, but he had a few games with over 100 yards, you know, a couple over 130, etc., etc. You know, he has, I think, 9 touchdowns on the season. Definitely the best season. He surpassed 1,200 yards. And he showed some dominant performances. But again, it's never been his potential or his ability. It's always been his health. So we need to keep that in full context. But he did definitely win the battle against Stephon Gilmore. J.C. Jackson had 6 solo, 1 assisted tackle. Patrick Chung, 6 solo tackles and a pass defense. Danny Shelton, 4 solo, 2 assisted. Dante Hightower, 4 solo, 2 assisted. Jonathan Jones, 4 solo tackles. Kyle Van Noy, 3 solo, 3 assisted, and a forced fumble. Jamie Collins, 3 solo, 1 assisted, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. Devin McCourty, 3 solo, 1 assisted. John Simon, 3 solo tackles. Lawrence Guy, 2 solo, 1 assisted, a sack, and a tackle for loss. Adam Butler, 1 solo tackle and a tackle for loss. In the kicking game, Jason Sanders was 2 for 2 on his field goals with a long of 32, 3 for 3 on all of his extra points. Nick Folk made his 1 field goal, which was 20 from 25 yards out, and 3 for 3 on his extra points. Matt Hawk had 4 punts for 42.5 average, 2 inside the 20 with a long of 55. Jake Bailey had 4 punts with a 44.5 average, 3 inside the 20 with a long of 57. In the kickoff return game, Trevor Davis had 1 for 18. Brandon Bolden had 1 for 38. In punt returns, Trevor Davis had 2 for 3.5 average, along a 7. Mohamed Sanu had 1 for 7. So there's all the stats, all that garble and all that madness, but it's important, I think, to give you guys, you know, the full stat breakdown, because it's important context, important information, and it tells part of the story, right? It's not all of it, right? The stats can be misleading sometimes. Scores can be misleading sometimes. Sometimes a team will score, you know, a bunch of garbage time points that don't matter. Or you have games like the Bengals game last week where a team will score, you know, a couple touchdowns late that they shouldn't score, but they do, and then get two-point conversions to tie the game to take it into overtime, etc., etc., etc. So it depends, right? But it's part of the story, and I think it's important. So now for the key points analysis, whatever, right? So the first thing is did we win? Yes. And again, I was wrong. I thought it was, again, nearly inconceivable. Obviously, there's always something that can happen, and obviously enough happened and enough went right for us to win, which was phenomenal. Brought us to 5 wins on the season. It was certainly a signature win on the season to end the season with a victory against the New England Patriots in Gillette Stadium to knock them out of the number 2 seed, forcing them to play in the wild card round in like 10 years or something like that, I think they said, right? So, and were we competitive? Absolutely. Overall, I mean, definitely, like I said, the players played hard. For the vast majority of the play calling, I thought it was good. There was definitely some creative stuff in there. They were about 50-50 on their trick plays. I think there were like 4 of them. 2 of them worked, 2 of them didn't. So, you know, but they were definitely creative. For the most part, they were smart, aggressive. I do have an example of one situation early on in the game that I thought was stupid aggressive, and I will talk about that. But like I said, most of this is certainly love. But again, I wanna make sure that I give you the full context and give you all of the major factors, no matter what, right? That's what true, objective. Again, I find it difficult to call myself a reporter or a journalist, but that's what, I know, like I'm a content creator on YouTube, but that's what like, good reporting is about. And essentially that is what we do is we report to you guys on, the facts of, or supposed to, this is what we're supposed to do, report to you guys on the facts of how things happened, how it played out, and then give you a perspective and analysis of ours based on those facts. So, definitely, like I said, overall, the players played hard. The coaching was overall positive and creative and smart, aggressive, etc., etc. But also, like I mentioned before, the Patriots did play like garbage. Brady was hella inaccurate all day, overthrowing like crazy, whatever. The Patriots also did have some drop passes. They obviously did lose the penalty battle, right? They definitely had more penalties, etc. And on the Dolphins side, we did have some trouble tackling all day. That was kind of like the big thing that I noticed on the Dolphins side. The defense just had a rough time tackling. But like I said, it was more good than bad. So let's get to the one thing, the one like key thing, I think, the biggest criticism that I had in this game. So early on in the game, Dolphins on the Patriots 45-yard line, so barely over the 50, right? It's 4th and 3 with 10 minutes and 53 seconds left to go in the first quarter. Super early on, you barely cross the 50-yard line. They do a fake punt that goes incomplete from Matt Hawk to Dion Lacey, a linebacker. Right? Now, I thought this was a terrible call. Why? Because it was super early in the game. You can't make stupid mistakes against the Patriots, especially in Gillette Stadium. Now, and Brian Flores should know that better than anyone. I mean, half the team should know that because half the team is from the Patriots, either coaches or, players. Not really, but it seems that way because there are certainly a lot of players and coaches that have come from there, right? So they should know that. Right? And it was 4th and 3. It was overly aggressive. And at this point in the season, people know you're going to do that. Like, it's not really reaching into a bag of things and tricks that people haven't seen before. So they're going to be ready. And then you have your punter throw it to a linebacker. Like, I mean, you could have been at least a little, and it was not only that, but it was actually a pretty deep pass too. It's not like it was 3 yards. They needed 3 yards. They could have designed it a little bit better, maybe to a corner or something, or I mean, I'm sure you have a tight end or something on the field, right, that you could use. Maybe somebody a little bit better than a linebacker to catch the pass, and then, but even so, at least make it like a short pass just to pick up the 3 yards. But it was like a intermediate to deeper pass. It was like 15 yards downfield or something like that. It just didn't make any sense at all. And then you give them good field position to possibly just march right down and score. Now they didn't, and so it didn't end up being disastrous in that way. But I just thought it was again, stupid aggressive. And that has been a theme throughout the season. So I just wanted to mention it. Now let's go ahead and get into the love. So next thing we have is the Dolphins had the ball on their own 44. It was 2nd and 6 with 6:45 left to go in the first quarter. It was another trick play thing, right? A whole bunch of shit happened. There was a direct snap to Patrick Laird. He hands it off to Albert Wilson, who pitches it to Ford, and Ford was going to throw the ball. Now, he realized, he almost got sacked, really, but he realized that there was nothing downfield, so he held the ball, he tucked it, right? He avoided the sack, which was great, elusive, blah, blah, blah. And he extended the play, and he actually ended up running for a first down and extended the drive. right? So it was close to not working, but it was, it was, like I said, it was 2nd and 6. Why not, right? That's a smart aggressive. Like, that's a time to take a chance on something like that, or like maybe a deep shot downfield, right? Because 3rd and 6, it wouldn't be a terrible thing. It's still early in the game, so you can play around with that a little bit. And it's good to, try and pull out a couple tricks. I mean, you're not going to the playoffs, so you don't have to worry about showing things for other teams. So, this is like a playoff game for you. So yeah, pull some stuff out once in a while. So I loved it. It was good. And it did end up working, right? And then the drive ended with a field goal. Dolphins go up 3-0, right? So some positive credit there for the coaching staff and the players, etc. Next, we have the Patriots on their own 45. It was 3rd and 10 with 6 seconds left to go in the first quarter. It was a 16-yard pickup for the first down, right? There was a penalty on the field, okay? It was an offensive pass interference penalty. They called it on the field, or they actually didn't call it on the field. That's what they threw, but they ended up picking up the flag, right? Now, it was basically, the pass interference was because I think Ben Watson is his name, the tight end. He was blocking downfield, and he did go a bit past 5 yards, right? You're legally allowed by the rules to block to up to 5 yards from the line of scrimmage downfield. He did block a little bit downfield. They picked up the penalty. Brian Flores challenged that call, right? And he won. Now, during the game or whatever, and I still think that it was kind of, a ticky-tack call to begin with, and so I personally was all right with them picking up the flag, because fucking football is football, and I hate the over officiating that we've gotten to, but that's in large part though, again, because of the rule book and how the NFL has destroyed it, to be fair to the refs. But so he challenges it and he wins, so credit to him. But there were a couple other occasions. There was a pass interference later on in the game that I thought was a reasonable one that he could have challenged that he didn't. I just point that out again because there has been some consistent frustrations with the use of timeouts and challenges earlier and throughout the season. So I just want to point it out, full context. And then there was another situation later on, which I'll actually get to because I want to talk about that play specifically, where he could have challenged and it potentially could have helped, prevent the Patriots from getting a touchdown. But I'll get to that in a minute. So, so for that, it was great. So the whole main point of that, though, is credit to them and credit to him for challenging it and winning it. It was definitely winnable, even though I thought that it was an alright call, like it was a fair call to just pick up the flag, because I don't want them to over officiate this game. It certainly was fair to, and certainly good to challenge it, because he did block past 5 yards, and so by the rules you certainly can call that for pass interference. So credit to Flores for getting that one right. Next, we have the Patriots on their own 31. It's 2nd and 10 with 10 minutes and 41 seconds left to go in the second quarter. And so this is another example of, and there were many of these throughout the entire game. Lots of them. Brady, and again, he was like 50-something, I don't know what it was, 50-something% completion percentage. Let's see, 55.2%. He was just terrible the entire day. And so this play is another example. This is the play where he just floated a ball in between two receivers, and Eric Rowe gets a pick six on Tom Brady. Like I said, they were on their own 31-yard line. It was 2nd and 10 with 10:41 in the second quarter, and he just floats it up in between two receivers. Eric Rowe picks it off and takes it the rest of the way for a score. That made the game 10-0 Dolphins at this point, right? And so part of the reason why I said this game was like stressful is because we got to moments where it was 10-0 in the first quarter, or in the second quarter, after just getting a pick six off of Tom Brady, and we're like feeling good, but then we kind of regressed, and then it was ebbed and flowed, and so it was definitely a stressful game, but turned out great at the end. Next, we have the Patriots on their own 44-yard line, 1st and 10 with 3:44 left to go in the second quarter. And this is the play that I wanted to talk about, where Brian Flores could have thrown the challenge flag. Fine, maybe if you didn't want to do it on the other pass interference, all right, whatever, and give you a pass on that. I think it still would have been worth it to get it. But in this case, for sure, he definitely should have thrown it, because he absolutely could have won it. It wouldn't have guaranteed that the Patriots wouldn't have gotten a touchdown, but it would have pushed them 10 yards back from where they were, and your defense had been holding pretty tough throughout the game. So it certainly could have helped you. There's no reason not to throw the challenge flag here. It was pretty clear. Let me get to the play. So again, Patriots on their own 44. 1st and 10 with 3:44 in the second quarter. So the half is getting ready to close, right? They're down at this point 10-3. Okay? It was a deep shot from Brady to Dorsett that got to the Dolphins' 17-yard line. Okay? Now, so that's already a big gain. It was a catch, clean catch. That's not the problem. But the problem was the spot, right? So he catches the ball, and he was down at about the 17-yard line. And on the replay, you can see, now Philip Dorsett got up because he didn't think that he was touched. And he got up and he ran about another 11 yards, right? Because the very next play was 1st and goal on the 6-yard line. It could have been 1st and 10 on the 17-yard line, okay? Now, again, would it have really mattered? I mean, the Patriots could have, scored a touchdown anyway, sure. But again, there's just no reason not to. And it was clear on the replay, one of the Dolphins defenders' hands touched Philip Dorsett when he was on the ground. Okay? That's down by contact. He should have challenged it. He should have thrown the challenge flag and got him to back up, that 11 yards. And potentially it could have at least kept him to a field goal, making it 10-6 going into the half if they were able to hold tough. And if not, then it would have been 10-10 anyway. But at least try for it, right? And he didn't. So another minor criticism. Again, most of this is certainly love for him and this coaching staff and this team. But again, full context. You got to be objective, and you got to point these things out, especially considering it has been a bit of an issue, throughout the season. I believe a bit, at the very least, somewhat intentionally. I mean, I believe it was intentional, because I think they're, they were trying to get as high a draft pick as they possibly could by designing the team to be bad, etc., etc. Stephen Ross came out, I think, today and said that that's ridiculous. He's just full of shit. Anyway, let's continue on, though, and get to some more positives. So, well, actually, before I get to that, there was something really curious that happened at the very end of the half, right? So, at the very end of the first half. So, the Patriots get that touchdown, right? It's now 10-10, right? Game is tied up. The Patriots get the ball after half. They kick off to us. The Dolphins go 3 and out on our next drive. And with about 1:45 left to go in the half, the Patriots could have called a timeout to get the ball back, right? Because, they were going to get the ball back anyway, but we were going to punt it. The clock was running. They could have stopped it. They had 3 timeouts. They could have stopped it with 1:45 and then still had 2 timeouts left to go down and potentially score. Now, they are notorious for doing shit like that. Pulling a score out at the end of the first half and then coming out hot in the second half and scoring more points on their first drive of the second half. They did not call that timeout. They didn't receive the ball until about 58 seconds left in the second quarter. So they could have stopped the clock at about 1:45. They let 47 seconds come off the clock because they didn't call a timeout before they ended up receiving the punt. Okay? Then they just ran the ball twice and let the clock run out. They had 58 seconds left to go. Even still, that's about a minute with 2 timeouts and Tom Brady. What are you doing, Bill? What are you doing? It was just super curious, right? Never used a single timeout. Ended the half with all 3 of their timeouts. It was just crazy. So, like, and a little bit of me wants to be like, you know, he was being nice to Brian Flores or something. I don't know, dude. Like, it's anything and anything really would just be speculation, but it was super weird. Anyway, so then next they actually didn't even score any points. I think they punted on their opening drive in the second half too. So you know, it was just super weird. Anyway, so next, the Dolphins were on the Patriots 41-yard line, 1st and 10 with 10:20 in the third quarter. Okay, it was a snap to Fitzpatrick, a fake to Laird, and a screen pass to Wilson. Wilson threw the screen pass across the field to Patrick Laird, who took it 20 yards, right? So this is, again, more credit to the coaching staff, more love to the coaching staff. This was a great play. It looked like it was going to be a disaster because Albert Wilson was going to get blown up, but it was a fake run to Laird, then a fake screen pass to Albert Wilson. It was a screen pass to Albert Wilson, but there were like no blockers and shit, or minimal blockers, and he was about to get blown up. But as it turned out, it was a fake because then he threw it across field to Patrick Laird, who had like 4 blockers in front of him, got 20 yards. The drive ends with Ryan Fitzpatrick touchdown run, the touchdown run that he got, and capped off the drive, 17-10, Dolphins lead. So again, a lot more love to the coaching staff for that. Next, we have the Dolphins on the Patriots 23, 1st and 10 with 9:36 left to go in the fourth. It was a pitch to Wilson, who threw incomplete. I only mentioned that because, again, like I said, just to be fair, full context, they did, like, that was the 4th like trick play. That one went incomplete, and yeah, that's really about it. So it was just, they were 50-50, but overall, you know, it was certainly a success, and they definitely, I don't disagree with it at all. I think that, so it, you know, it is overall more credit to the coaching staff, because you do got to test it a little bit, and you do got to stay aggressive. Overall, you got to be smart about it. And again, I think the fake punt early on was just stupid, but the other 3 were at least, I think, smart, aggressive, and good times, right? Because this was, you're on the Patriots 23-yard line, so you're almost into the red zone. It's only 1st and 10. You got 9:36 left to go in the fourth quarter. It's tied 17-17 at this point. So why not try something a little aggressive? It's first down. I did like the play call overall. It didn't work, but it is what it is, right? But then the Patriots end up getting a pass interference, I think, on the very next play, give the Dolphins a first down, fresh set of downs, and the drive ended in a field goal to bring the Dolphins up 20-17. So definitely more overall, for sure. It didn't work, but credit to them for at least pushing it and being smart about it. And they got more points to bring us up 20-17. Then we have the Patriots on the Dolphins 13, 3rd and goal with 3:59. This is not criticism or credit to anybody. This was just something I was frustrated about. The Patriots were on the Dolphins 13, 3rd and goal with 3:59 in the fourth after a false start on New England. So they were 13 yards out from the goal line. That's why it was 3rd and goal from the 13, and because they had a false start. And so, but then they end up throwing a screen pass that goes for a touchdown, I think to maybe James White. But the frustrating part was that there should have been some kind of penalty on this play on the Patriots, because one of their blockers did like a low cut block on Walt Aikens, and he was like the lone injury in this game. And it was because the blocker for the Patriots took his helmet and put it into Walt Aikens' knee. So at the very least, right, the penalty that I actually disagree with overall of, although I think that they did fix it a little bit after the first year that they put it in. But as it was when they initially implemented it, I definitely disagree with it. I think they have tweaked it since then, to be fair. But the leading with the helmet rule or whatever, or lowering the helmet, whatever it was, because sometimes you do gotta, like, you know, lower your helmet to protect yourself, particularly offensive players. And they were calling offensive players for it, and I thought it was kind of garbage. Anyway, and even sometimes in the case of defensive players, I thought it was garbage. I defended Kiko Alonso on several occasions because I thought he did everything he could to avoid it, and he got called anyway. Anyway, point is, but this was helmet straight to his knee. They should have called him for a penalty, and it was super frustrating. Anyway, more love and more credit to this coaching staff, because, I mean, at the end of the game, right, so after that, it was 24-20 Patriots lead, right? So they get that touchdown. I thought they should have had a penalty, but whatever. They get the touchdown. It's now 24-20 Patriots lead, and the game is coming down to it, right? There's only a few minutes left to go. They certainly have time. They have some timeouts, etc., if they needed them, and the 2-minute warning. So they had an opportunity, and damn it, they put it together. The final drive of the game went 13 plays for 75 yards. So they had like a little over 3 minutes left to go. They wound, it was almost perfect. That's exactly what you want. You want a long drive with that much time. You want a long enough drive that you take it down, right? Because by the end of the drive, there was only 24 seconds left to go. They played it so well. So much credit goes to the players for their execution and their fight and their drive, and credit to the goddamn coaching staff for calling a game plan on that last drive to take all the clock away and come away with a touchdown. 13 plays, 75 yards. They get what ends up being the game-winning touchdown to Mike Gesicki to bring the score 27-24 with 24 seconds left to go in the game. The Patriots get the ball. The last play of the game was with 2 seconds left to go, and they tried some crazy lateral backward pass thing, you know, that just didn't work. It was amusing and lasted about, you know, there was 2 seconds left to go in the game when they started. It lasted about 12 seconds, so 10 extra seconds. But, you know, and then failed miserably, which was beautiful to see. But, and at the end of the day, we got the victory, man, and that's so amazing, and that's so awesome. So that's why I said this video definitely overall, they get a lot of love. I'm still not convinced overall that this entire philosophy and effort to do what they did, despite what they, you know, say, you know, like Stephen Ross's comments today about it's ridiculous that we were trying to be bad on purpose. Bullshit. I don't buy that at all. But you know, I'm still not confident that they're going to handle the draft right. Again, they can prove me wrong. Again, I can admit when I'm wrong, and they proved me wrong in this game. So I hope that they do. I really do. I would love to be able to make a video for you guys and say, look, man, you know, or I'm going to live stream or do a live stream during the draft. So I'd love to be able to say in real time, and, you know, in my post-draft video where I do the entire draft class, I'd be able to be like, man, they fucking nailed this. So I hope so. But we'll see. And then, you know, the Xavier Howard situation that just came up with him getting arrested it's troubling, and I don't know. I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day, right, so I noted in the video that I made earlier about it that the Dolphins are aware, they haven't made a decision yet, etc., etc. The league, it is a violation of the league's policy, so he is most likely going to miss some time. Or, I don't know about most likely, he potentially could miss some time in the 2020 season early on because of it. Okay. So, you know, and like I said in that video, I mean, they did cut Mark Walton for a similar thing. Now there are some key differences, some notable differences. Mark Walton, like, repeatedly punched his pregnant girlfriend or fiance or whatever she was, girlfriend, in the face while she's pregnant with his child. So that's obviously far more egregious than just grabbing the wrist of your fiance and pushing her a little bit than that. Now it's still bad, and you know, obviously something needs to happen. There has to be some sort of repercussion. I mean, he got arrested for it. You know, so there has to be something. Now, if the Dolphins really wanted to be consistent with their standards, based off of the standard they set with Mark Walton, they should cut him. Now, obviously, I don't want that to happen. Now, some other things that go into it, some other factors, and why I don't think that they will. And to be fair to Xavier Howard, I said in that video too that, you know, it's, to me, I mean, obviously I don't know him personally, but it seemed uncharacteristic. He's always been kind of a quiet guy. He's not very aggressive except for on the field, from what I could tell. Obviously, I don't know him personally, but it just didn't seem like something he would do. So hopefully it can be a one and done. I mean, you never want it to be a one in the first place, but hopefully it's just a simple mistake. Obviously, he didn't punch her, so if it never happens again, we can look past it, right? We can be like, okay, it was just and it was over something stupid. It was over the purchase of a purse. So hopefully we can just move past it. Obviously, we do have him under contract for the next 4 years. The contract is designed in a way that, I mean, they've already given him all of his guaranteed money. It is a $75 million contract, but it is structured in a way that they could trade him, right? So, you know, we'll see what happens. But he is also a stud and a superstar and supposed to be one of the pillars to build around on this team. Now, full context, he also has, expressed frustration that he doesn't want to waste the prime years of his career in a situation, where on a team where he's not competitive. Right? So there's that as well. And then the last part of it that's a little concerning to me is he's in jail right now, and he just had knee surgery. And according to the police report, he was complaining about knee pain. That's not good, because, I mean, our criminal justice, not to get too political, but our criminal justice system is clearly biased against black people, and they don't treat them very well at all. They murder them in the street for absolutely no reason. And when they're in jail, they don't really, care about them. So now again, it could be different with him because he is a high profile guy. Certainly because he's, the star cornerback of the Miami Dolphins. He is obviously wealthy, but more importantly, he's the star cornerback of the Miami Dolphins, whose owner is a white male billionaire. So that all could obviously play into it, and they could get him some help and whatever. Maybe that does happen. Maybe it did happen. I don't know. But that does concern me, because especially cops in Florida. Oh, Jesus Christ. Anyway, so that is a little bit concerning. But point of all that is that that's a troubling situation for this team going forward as well. I mean, again, if you wanted to uphold the moral standard that you set with Mark Walton, you would cut him. I obviously don't want that to happen, and I definitely think there is room for forgiveness here. Obviously, he has to make amends and move past this and never do it again. He can't have another incident. He just can't, right? He also doesn't have, 3 prior arrests like Mark Walton did, so that's more context. And again, it does seem to be out of character for him. He is also a superstar that's paid a lot of money. So there's a lot that goes into it. I don't think that they're going to cut him. I find that to be kind of unimaginable. But hey, crazier things have happened. We just won this game against the Patriots. I hope it doesn't, though. I hope it's really just a one and done and it never happens again and we can move past it. And hopefully in a few months we can just forget about it and it never happens again. Anyway, so real quick, a couple bright spots. Obviously, Devontae Parker had another overall dominant game. Didn't get any more touchdowns, which would have been great because that would have put him on 10 at 10 for the season. So double-digit touchdowns would have been nice in addition to his 1,200 yards. But the 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns are career highs. He has more catches. So it was definitely a breakout season. Again, a lot of credit goes to Gase and his coaching staff for getting him to the place where he could finally be healthy because of his habits on and off the field. But, some credit goes to this coaching staff for helping him to, further develop himself now that he is healthy and helping him get to the 1,200 yards in a career year, etc. And of course, real quick, just for full context, we have been a pass-heavy, out of necessity team, so that plays a part into it. The other bright spot in this game really was Eric Rowe, because you got to be when you get a pick 6 off Brady. And we do have him, we did extend him to a contract extension. I mean, again, he's just been, average overall. So we'll see how that plays out in the long run. But I definitely think he's a solid piece to have on the team. So, I didn't hate the extension. It's just that you can't have an entire team that's just average and built with nothing. But you can't expect that you're going to get, you're going to hit on all of your, undrafted guys and your waiver wire guys, etc. And frankly, most of them have been, misses. So, I mean, there's only but so many chances, you can take. You gotta, that's why I just disagreed so much with getting rid of proven guys like Tunsil and Tannehill and Alonso and Stills and Fitzpatrick and Gore, etc., etc., etc. One of the major reasons why I disagree with this whole philosophy to begin with. I think it's stupid and foolish. And then the Tua thing. Chase Young, at this point, is still not coming out in the 2020 draft, right? Barring either a change of mind or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So we'll have to wait and see on that. And then, this thing with Xavier Howard. There's always just things that can, set you behind. I mean, anyway, so real quick, the last thing I want to talk about, as usual, this video is about an hour long, so I'll try and make this quick. Obviously, we do know now the first 20 picks, so we obviously have to wait for the last 12 picks of the upcoming draft order to wait and see how the playoffs play out. The only one of those picks that could potentially change is the Texans pick. But so real quick, I do want to talk about the draft order as it stands now and the playoff games that are coming up this weekend. Because I am, so real quick, the playoff games this weekend are going to be on Saturday. It's going to be the Texans and Bills. So that game is obviously relevant to us. And then it's going to be the Patriots and Titans game. I'm super excited for that game. So I'm going to be doing a live stream. It's going to be consecutive. They're going to be back to back. So it's going to be like a 6-hour live stream. So make sure you guys join me for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. So real quick, the draft order. The Cincinnati Bengals they just won over the Browns. Okay, so real quick, I do want to talk about that too. The Browns, they're 6-10 on the season. They the Bengals got their second win over the Browns. They just fired Freddie Kitchens. There have been reports that OBJ and Jarvis Landry want out. The Browns are in year 4 of their rebuild, and they're the prominent example that people use of an NFL team tanking to be successful. Okay, and I've been saying consistently that it doesn't work in the NFL, and it's unfortunately, I feel too difficult of a thing to accomplish because of the risk that comes with it. Especially considering the fact that the Dolphins took it to an even further depth than the the Browns did. Okay, and so they're in turmoil right now, and they're having a lot of problems, and they're probably gonna be getting rid of some guys in the off season and so on and so forth, and there's a lot of trouble there. So again, and so they're still at least several years away from proving that they can not only achieve success but maintain consistent success, i.e. consistently getting to the playoffs. They only went 6-10 this year. So it's a massive risk. Anyway, continuing on, the 3-13 Washington Redskins come in at number 2. The 3-12-1 Lions come in at 3. And let's also, just a quick interesting note, Matt Patricia has not done very well in his first few years there. I don't know how he's safe for next year, I saw reports say, but who knows how much longer after that if they can't turn it around next year. So that's interesting. Just an interesting note, because it is true that for the vast majority of Bill Belichick disciples, they haven't fared too well. And really the only one right now is Bill O'Brien, and frankly, I think he's actually been the weak link there for the Texans for a while now. But they do have a really good team built up and stuff, so I think he's being carried a little bit. But he does deserve some credit. So he's, the only one now that's kind of starting to get to some success. Let's see what he can do with it going forward. The Giants come in at 4-12 at number 4. We pick at number 5. Then the Chargers at number 6. Panthers at 7. Cardinals at 8. Jacksonville at 9. Cleveland at 10. Jets at 11. They ended the season at 7-9. Real quick note about that, because I'm an Adam Gase fan and I hate the hate that he gets. Look, man, it's not his fault that Bowles got fired. It's not his fault the GM got fired halfway through the season. It's I don't know why he's getting blamed for, I can't speak to, how his relationship is with these players this season, or, was in the case of Leonard Williams, but the issues that Leonard Williams and Jamal Adams had predate Adam Gase. So I don't know why he's getting all the heat for that and the problems with them. And there's big name free agents like CJ Mosley and Le'Veon Bell, and Adam Gase proved while he was here with the Dolphins that that's not his MO. So I think he needs time. And he still managed 7 wins. He got him to 7-9. I've also heard, rumors, talk, whatever, that he's not a big fan of Sam Darnold. This was prior to him going there, but I've heard, or actually, I think I might have even heard some reports on it after he had gone there, but not necessarily quotes from him. It's just stuff from that had come up from the past. Anyway, my point is though with that is there's going to be a lot of change. I think he needs to be given time, and I think he's going to prove that he's going to be able to turn the Jets around. Oakland comes in at number 12. The Colts at 13, Tampa at 14, Denver at 15, Atlanta at 16, Dallas at 17. The Steelers pick is at 18, so that's where our second first round pick is going to be, 18, so high teens. Then Chicago at 19 and the Rams at 20. But the Chicago pick goes to Oakland and the Rams pick goes to Jacksonville. Yeah. And then so obviously right now then we have Philly, Tennessee, Buffalo, Minnesota, Houston, Seattle, New England, Green Bay, Kansas City, New Orleans, San Francisco, Baltimore. We're going to have to wait and see how the postseason plays out. Now, as for the games coming up this weekend, it starts off with, like I said, I'm going to be doing a live stream for it. It's going to be like 6 hours. The first game is the Bills versus the Texans. Now, obviously, if the Texans win, that'll make our pick from them drop, right? So that it'll get lower. Right now it's 25, which is midway, obviously mid-20s, right? It'll drop to somewhere into the higher 20s if they win. But I want the Texans to win. Why? Again, partly because I don't care where the pick is. It's about how you use it. Secondly, because the Buffalo Bills are a rival of ours, and I would love to see them lose. Thirdly, one of my best friends is a Texans fan, and I am, rooting for him and his team since we're not playing them, and I would like for them to win because of that. Also, I am a Tunsil and Stills fan, and I'm happy for them that they have, Tunsil's going to the Pro Bowl, they're in the playoffs, and I do think that they stand a good chance. I mean, the Buffalo Bills are a good team. Both of those teams ended the season at 10-6. I mean, the Texans lost yesterday to the Titans, and that's partly how they got in at 9-7. And Buffalo lost to the Jets yesterday. To be fair, though, they didn't play a bunch of their starters, but they did lose to the Jets to end 10-6 on the season. So, but they are a good team, so it's going to be a fun game to watch. I think it's going to be a good game, but I personally am going to be rooting for the Texans to win for all the reasons I stated. Now, the other game, I'm going to watch that game too, because it's going to be the Tennessee Titans led by Ryan Tannehill. By the way, in that game, I had said that before when I mentioned it, I had said that Derrick Henry got the game-winning touchdown. That's not true. He got the walk-off touchdown. They won the game 35-14 pretty handedly. And even though, again, to be fair, the Texans also didn't play a bunch of their starters, but it was pretty handedly, and Tannehill certainly did his part, and he has been the definitive reason why the Tennessee Titans are now in the playoffs and getting to play a game. And it's a super meaningful one, and he knows the Patriots well, and they just lost to us playing their starters in Foxborough. So yes, the Titans have to go to Foxborough. By the way, the Bills Houston game is in Houston because they have the higher seed. And so the Patriots have the higher seed. So Tennessee has to go to Foxborough, but that's a winnable game for them. And man, oh man, oh man, oh man, I will love, obviously I'm rooting for the Titans. One, because the Patriots, I hate them. And two, and I would love for them to get knocked out of the playoffs in the wild card round in their own stadium against Ryan Tannehill. Oh God, that would be beautiful. But they did yesterday get Derrick Henry the rushing title on the season because they got him enough rushing yards to overtake Nick Chubb for the Browns. So that is one bright spot for the Browns. They did have Nick Chubb, who came in runner-up for the rushing title. Yeah, so that's gonna be a really good game, man. And I think they're gonna give the Patriots a run for their money. And God, I would love to see that. So that's how I'm gonna wrap this, guys. Definitely make sure that you join me on Saturday for that. It's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be a 6-hour bonanza of craziness, of playoff football. It's the wild card round. And as I said, I'm going to be rooting for the Texans and the Titans to move on. And then if that happens, well, actually, so real quick, let me know if that happens. If the Titans win, then they would have to play the Ravens. If the If the Titans and Texans win, then the Titans would have to play the Ravens and the Texans would have to play the Chiefs. Now, my prediction for the Super Bowl is Baltimore, San Francisco. I think it's going to be Ravens 49ers. We'll have to see what happens, but that's how it would play out if the Titans and the Texans win on Saturday. But I will be doing that live stream. It's going to be 6 hours, roughly 6-7 hours. It's going to be crazy. So make sure you join me for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then, you know, if the Texans lose though, then we'll know exactly where they're picking, and we can start speculating a little bit more on what we think the Dolphins are going to do. Anyway, alright guys, I'm gonna get up out of here. I hope you guys enjoy my videos and my perspective. If you do, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button if you want to get the hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Make sure you share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. And of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dylan Tartaro. And with that, I'm out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.